Hello, my loves. How are you? Happy full moon day. And whatever you see in the title is going to be what comes through today. I'm just going to open up and see what's most beneficial for you. I just wanted to start out by acknowledging these very you intense energies that have been coming up. I know many of you have been experiencing them between the previous few weeks of solar flares and this full moon and everything else that's been happening, the 1010 portal. And so I wanted to talk to you guys really quick about that conversation that I had with Connor last week. For those of you who got to watch that, it was quite an intense energy unfolding as we were having the conversation. And I haven't had an opportunity to speak to him about it yet, but I think I would really like to do a part two of that topic because it was literally opening and unfolding as we were having the conversation and took multiple days to sort of process what was unfolding in real time. For those of you who watched it, I'm not sure if you picked up on it, but during a part of the conversation, we were sort of talking about the 3D to the 5D bridging. And it was so clear to me within that moment and as the following few days unfolded that yes, we've been working on these 5D energies of bringing them in and embodying them sort of in that, you know, vertical fashion from heaven to earth. And what was unfolding, at least for me within that conversation, was witnessing and really seeing where the sacred divine masculine collectives have really been holding it down, oftentimes in more of those physical world 3D constructs. Well, the divine sacred feminines have been really homing in on and learning to embody her higher self in those 5D energies, and sort of where as the collectives meet, they're bridging that. And oftentimes we hear about, we're moving into the 5D. And part of that, at least how I have been shown over the years from my higher self and what my experience has been about, it's been about learning how to embody those higher energies into the physical world and actually sort of let those frequencies drop into the 3D physical world as we have known it to sort of bring those new energies in. And this embodiment is a big part of what we do here on Harmonious Hearts and what we're talking about and sort of really looking at what it is, right? Or at least kind of have that conversation of what does this look like as we're learning how to embody those higher frequencies, but still be embodied on this planet with everything else that's going on. And it's something that we haven't done before. It's something that we're in the midst of evolving into. And this is a big part of the ascension process. So, part of what you witness here, and especially in those conversations, is sort of a real time unfolding of those energies. And this is the first interview series I've ever done in my life. That interview was the third one I've ever done. So, this is also very new for me. And I'm learning as I'm growing as well. So, I appreciate your presence with this process and this unfolding as we all grow together. But yes, this embodiment process of bringing those energies into the world, it's, I guess the best way I can understand it is thinking about like if you wanted to build a new house, right? You want a brand new house, you're writing up the blueprints for your new house. You know what it looks like, you know what it's going to feel like, you know, even the land it's going to be on, but it's not built yet. Okay. So you're not going to tear down your old house and live on the streets. In most cases, you're going to stay in your old house and start cleaning it up and packing and preparing as the new house is being built, right? That is essentially what we have been doing in the essence is that we're beginning to embody more deeply into our higher self in the 5D energies. We're literally moving into that frequency, but that those times and the ways that you feel like you're bridging in between the two is actually a very important part of the ascension process in physicality, like actually embodying those templates, actually coming into the physical world. And so many of you may be actually living and experiencing, say, jobs that are considered 3D, or, we're still operating in some of those constructs to some degree, it even though we're unraveling more and more out of the energies, okay? And this actually even goes with my most recent video around money. So we can change our frequency and our relationship to the physical 3D world constructs, but we may still work with them and participate with them in ways that are actually supporting our capacity to embody and build in the 5D energies, okay? So if this resonates with you, of course, this is sort of what it really feels like we're moving into as the collectives are moving into their next levels of ascension. As in general, of course, you're going through these energies internally for yourself, regardless of how you identify masculine or feminine, because we're living on this planet and we are vacillating between surrendering to our higher guidance and taking action from our heart to create and build the life that we want, right? And so what we're also starting to witness is the building of those communities and the camaraderie and the connections to help us facilitate that next levels of growth. Okay. And so there was sort of a really big time where a lot of the feminines, and I know some of you still might be in parts of this. I myself am in some areas of my life where you're still sort of in some hermit modes, or you're almost some of how I feel. I don't really feel in hermit mode anymore per se, but I do still feel that I'm sort of sequestered away and very what's the word that I can say? I sort of am not needing to participate in certain aspects of things anymore because I've learned those lessons, but I'm still living in this world and I'm still participating in physicality and enjoying my life. But there's a lot of things that maybe I used to participate in that I'm not anymore. So I'm not necessarily involved in a lot of the topics that a lot of the planetary collective is, although I'm still aware that they're happening. I'm using that as an example because there was a time within this process where I was coming out of hermit mode, and yet I still wasn't really wanting or needing to participate in those things anymore. And it felt a little bit uncertain. I'm just sort of feeling guided to confirm that for some of you, that just because your guidance is to still maybe be still or surrendered to your guidance, just follow and trust that, because what is happening is that there may be places and times where all of a sudden you're guided to go somewhere because your energy, your frequency, your presence, your stability will be supportive for you and that environment. But there may be other times that you think you're going to go somewhere and you're going to do something, and then all of a sudden it sort of falls through and doesn't pan out. Also, trust that there's a reason and it's all working out as it's meant to. So just continue to trust yourself, whatever circumstances you find yourself in. But where I was going with this ultimately was that a lot of the feminines were in that more hermited, sequestered mode where she was going through this embodiment and this transformation. And as she's more stable with trusting herself and her guidance and caring for herself and sort of stepping out into the world, it's where she's really opening up and bringing in and connecting with her new community or reconnecting with some of her previous community and really starting to set that foundation or build upon the foundation for her new um, energy in the new world, right? When I was talking about a lot of the divine feminines holding the keys and the codes for the prosperous, thriving energy in the new earth, the masculines do as well, but many of the feminines are really moving into that. And as she does, that's allowing the masculines to step into their next levels. That was one of the biggest things that really became very prominent in the days following that conversation with Connor was the realization that the masculines are actually very, very, very ready to grow. They are ready to grow to their next levels. And what it felt like was where it was sort of pushing up on the sacred feminines because she's also ready to grow to her next levels. And so, in any of those cases, if you've been like feeling that, just allow yourself to expand because as you grow, that allows the next levels to grow. And it's sort of like, I was saying I see it like a ladder. It's like each parts of the collective sort of supporting one another in our growth. And that is why we're getting stronger and stronger and being ready to come out and start to connect in new ways in like conversations or camaraderie or community and friendship type of ways because we're ready for those next levels of growth in many cases. And there was a lot of growth in space that was needed for us to actually be able to move into our true authentic essence. Actually having that hermit time is such an important space where you're actually getting to know yourself. You're getting to grow into the version of you that you've always known you could be. And then you sort of grow in that pocket, and then your next levels of growth expand through your other friendships and connections and communities that are starting to really come online. And I love that this is coming out with this full moon in sort of this expansion. So now, as we're talking about this, I kind of just want to open it up with some cards and see what energies want to come through. I would love to hear from you guys how you're feeling with this, what you've been experiencing and witnessing. And of course, when I share these concepts, what I've discovered is it's not kind of like a one and done. You're sort of like going through all of those processes simultaneously. But as you're getting more comfortable in your own skin, these new layers are simultaneously opening up, sort of like the petals on a flower as the bud opens and then it moves into full bloom. It feels that, especially the Divine Sacred Feminine Collective, is very much in this type of process. And it's helpful to have a masculine like Connor to share those spaces with us because it's what I'm sensing into is it's sort of multi-layered and it's allowing for the feminines to open up and trust the process in a new way is my overall sense of it. And experiencing a connection or conversation with a masculine who's embodying more deeply into those balanced, safe energies is very beneficial for the general collective. I think because so many feminines were guided to go into her own strength. This is what's coming in. This is why we're having this conversation about the Connor part because it's connected with those levels of where you were really and you're learning to step into yourself. And maybe there was a point that you thought your masculine was going to come in and you were ready to grow with him. And maybe it didn't happen. And then you really kept growing and growing. And you're like, oh my gosh, now I see why that happened. And so some of you may be experiencing other masculines coming in, or I feel like we're going to start witnessing more and more masculines coming forward, like Connor. I'm sure there's others out there. If you know about them, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I would like to support that and just, um, it's just really allowing the collectives to grow together. in whatever ways that's coming in. So it really does feel like that is going to be coming more online into the physical world. And I'm here for it. Let's see what else wants to come through. You guys are sort of witnessing these energies. How it feels to me as I'm speaking it is where the masculines maybe that have been holding in the 3D, they're able to start to rise as the feminine is comfortable and more comfortable sort of navigating that 3, 4, 5D realm. She's embodying into those higher energies, but she's also able to like hold space collectively, planetarily, and feel stable within herself, regardless of what's coming or happening around her in the world. And this is allowing for that meeting in the middle to happen, which will ultimately allow the masculines to grow, allow the feminines to grow. You see what I mean? So we just keep supporting one another through this process. Okay. That's really cool. I love it. It's like the internal union energies beginning to be expressed externally in like those unity consciousness ways. So some of you may be experiencing it with your twin flame divine counterpart, and others of you may be experiencing it through community and connections in that manner, or all of the above. Ooh, okay. Those fell out, so I feel like the way they did, I want to take those out. They fell in my lap, and we had deep, quiet meditation and stillness, falling angel, spiritual narcolepsy, and then caterpillar opportunity. Now, this is interesting because I feel guided now to kind of dive into some of the energies that have been coming up. And it's sort of like the aspects of us that may have gone into kind of like a quiet sleep, almost like a spiritual narcolepsy while we were working on other things. My experience in what I've been witnessing in the past week or so is sort of where any of those energies that were left over in between the counterparts. I've been talking about this on my Patreon. Any of those limiting beliefs that you may have had back at separation or core wound, any of the abandonment stuff, basically all of the things that you've been working on, there may have been still energies back at the beginning of that separation that are thawing out because you are ready to bring in the results of what you've done now. So if you feel some of that sort of coming up, then no, it's because you are actually ready to open back up any of those aspects that may have been dormant in a dormant stage, sort of asleep until you were strong enough or ready to open up at the opportunity. Now, mind you, this is all happening in perfect and divine timing because everything you've been working on is what's preparing you to step into the opportunity. And I've been experiencing an aspect of this because, like I said, Connor actually asked to interview me. And when he decided to do this, he told me that he wants to ask me about the Atlantis, Lemurian energies, and sort of the mermaid energies and aspects. And in him asking that made me realize that there's quite a bit that is starting to thaw out and open up. And it feels like more information wants to come with that. So that's kind of cool. And I'll be interested to see what happens in that conversation. But it's an example of how things from the past are coming back up in a new way because you're ready to have the next sort of levels of that spiral open up. Okay. That is definitely coming through. It totally makes sense with the energies that have been really coming in, the downloads from those solar flares and the intensity of these energies we've been experiencing. With this, since it's the full moon, I want to see if there's anything specific that wants to come through to support you in this sort of thawing out process. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. If you guys didn't see it, I recorded a 41-minute guided meditative session to support this process of sort of bridging the 3D to the 5D energies for the counterparts. That's what came through very, very strongly. And it was sort of this really beautiful recalibration into the new energies. That's over in the community tab. I'll also drop it in the pinned comment if you want to check that out. It's also over on my website, on my web store, if you're interested in that. All right, let's see. So, but let's see what wants to come through for you in this process. Oh, they want me to share with you one thing that came out in that. It stood out to me quite significantly, and it was sort of where the heart energies were recalibrating between the counterparts. And as divine feminine relaxed into allowing her heart to receive from the divine sacred masculine energies, the whole system of the masculine actually relaxed. And that was really beautiful. So I wanted to share that with you so that you could keep that in your mind, because I know there's many divine feminines here. And you can work, of course, with these energies in your meditations or in within your awareness in whatever way resonates for you. Oh, wow. Okay. So between the deep, quiet meditation and stillness and this spiritual narcolepsy, we have the tower and the Ace of Pentacles. Sorry, like honestly, I'm naming the cards, but the energy that's coming through is so different than the names. It's like where this energy is being blasted open, where these activations are taking place, and the levels of growth that are ready to happen. It's like erupting, and the seed is like already ready to sprout. Like you may literally, it's what it's reminding me of is there have been times what's coming through is like many of you are not actually realizing how much you have grown. It's like you're pot bound and you're not realizing that you're ready to just go straight into the ground. And so, as you're opening and expanding into, say, a new pot or a new container, it's like you're thinking that your pieces and parts or what you've been asking for isn't ready yet, but actually it's not only ready, but the seed is literally like bursting forth. And then what I'm seeing is sort of like a whole forest coming out of the ground, not just like a sprout, but the whole forest. And sort of this is what is awakening as you're allowing these parts to thaw out and you're bringing in the results of who you are now back to the beginning, back to where you may have went into your dark night of the soul, like bringing all of that essence back now. It's sort of this vision when I tune into this energy is literally going back to say though one of those moments that might be in your mind or your awareness and embodying of the energy of who you are now into that experience and just notice how you can hold maybe things that made you crumble in the past or things that made you want to run or hide or freeze or wall off. Notice how you can just stand and be present with those memories, with those energies. Notice how you're responding differently to it. Okay. Now, as those types of things are happening, that's where the results of who you are can go back to those original plans, those original blueprints, and allow those to start to open in a new and deeper way, is what's coming through. So it'll sort of allow those next steps and stages. And what's coming through is now you have so much more understanding of the process that you actually have more of the information that you need to make those original blueprints happen. Sort of that vision that you had for your life or your partnership or your experiences or what you wanted to do or build or create or have on this planet or in the new energies. As this is thawing out and opening, you're sort of realizing, oh my gosh, now I see what I can do. Now I actually can see some of the steps where before I knew it was supposed to happen, but I had no idea how I was going to go about it. And as you retrieve and thaw out those parts of yourself that were dormant, now you realize you have the resources that you needed, my doves. I love it. Okay, what else do we got? One more. I want to do one more. It's sort of like even through this video, it's like where it's sort of opening up and thawing out and it's moving into that opportunity. So, what else can be supportive for you all going through and resonating with this process? Five of Wands. To me, this is coming through with that exact essence of what we're talking about. And it feels twofold to me. It's one, it's where you're retrieving all of your aspects, the ones that might have been frozen, but now you're ready to handle. You're ready to wield your power more fully. And also, the secondary energy that was coming through is where we are coming into these community connections and starting to build these communities of unity, be it physically, emotionally, spiritually, virtually, collectively, planetarily, just by connecting with one another. This presence, this video right here, and you connecting with me and talking in the comments is an aspect of us like embodying into a community in these energies, right, my loves? Okay, I love it. I do want to get one more because I feel like there's a bit more. Like you guys are ready for more. It's almost like as soon as this opens and expands, you're like reaching for that higher energy immediately because you're just like, it's like boom, so much growth very, very quickly. Much more than I think many of you have maybe realized. Whoa. Okay. Wow. So what flew into my lap this time was the Seven of Pentacles, the Three of Wands, and the Lovers. So for me, this feels like those growths that are happening. Like it's like from one seed. Remember, I said it's gonna feels like it's gonna grow into the forest. And whatever steps this takes, it's like we're still gonna give it space and grace to land and expand and come into fruition. But ultimately, whatever comes up for you, whatever opportunities unfold for you through this process is ultimately leading you to that divine sacred union partnership. Okay. And these things that are starting or going to expand into unfolding in the physical world are all part of it. Like they almost just like, I want to spread these cards out so that you're aware of not to squish yourself, right? Like, of course, you want to get here, but there's so much that wants to grow in between. And it's not to say that this can't come in within this process. So it also wants to come through. Don't think you have to have this all figured out for this to come. It's all part of it, but also give it all space so you can embody into those full versions of not only you, but this life that you're building and creating and embodying into. Wow, wow. So gorgeous, so beautiful. If you want more on this, I have been talking about these energies over on Patreon. I have some sessions available next week. I'll put everything in the pinned comment. And, as always, I'll be back to see you soon. I hope you're doing well in these energies and enjoying the full moon essences. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And I'll see you soon, loves. Take care. Bye.